What a day of news. The governor of Minnesota saying that he is out. And is it because of a 23-year-old social media influencer? Welcome to Drive Time. It's Jason. Your reaction is invited. It's needed. It's welcomed. We want to hear from you this first half hour of our show. We've had great experts up and down our shows today talking about the news that some described as stunning. 2 weeks ago on this show, I said that Tim Walz was done. And if I were a Democrat, well, here's what I said 2 weeks ago. It is time for all of us to face reality. Minnesota is the fraud headquarters of the United States. Sucks, man. Absolute failure on so many different fronts, and we'll get into it throughout the show today with a number of different angles. Your participation welcome as well, because I think Tim Walz is done. I think he's done. And if you're a Democrat, I think you should be working to get him to step aside. And if you are a Republican who thought, I don't know if I can get elected governor, I would declare my candidacy today. So that was well before a social media influencer got hundreds of millions of views by knocking on daycare doors. Much of what Nick Shirley reported or observed, I like to view what he did as eyewitness testimony. Much of it by WCCO TV showing surveillance camera footage that showed there were, in fact, sleeping children. The Star Tribune is gone. But the reality is this: Minnesota has a fraud problem. The governor of Minnesota has never, despite him saying the buck stops with me and he takes accountability today, I don't think he's ever really taken accountability for what happened. And today the price was paid. 651-461-9226. What do you think brought Tim Walz down? Because bear in mind, I think a lot of us thought Tim Walz was going to be the vice president of the United States of America. Donald Trump won. J.D. Vance won. But when you look at one political figure's downfall, because this is a downfall, despite all of the press releases today talking about what a great servant leader Tim Walz has been and what a great job he's done. I think often we are defined by what we do in the challenging circumstances. And in the challenge of a record amount of fraud in this state, to me, Tim Walz did not rise to meet the challenge. He didn't. And that will be a key part of the legacy, not the only part of the legacy, but a key part of the legacy. As much as I think that Joe Thompson, the assistant U.S. attorney, at his news conference 2 weeks ago, that's what I was responding to when he used the $9 billion number for fraud in Minnesota. I thought that was the end point. Power of social media can't be denied. And the fact that this 23-year-old was able to break through in a way that none of the other sort of local news reporting or local advocates or local candidates have done. How is that not a major factor in the decision process that shook out over the holidays, over this weekend? It is undeniable. And whether you think it's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know. I would prefer that as a society, we take action based on thoughtful, logical, well-reported, well-researched stories. I gotta say, are we supposed to be mad about the fact that the national outrage that was generated by this YouTube content creator, right-wing influencer, Nick Shirley, why to take this, I guess. 651-461-9226. Let's go to Mark and Lionel Lakes. Mark, thanks for listening and thanks for calling. What's your thought and what's your reaction to the news that Tim Walz has decided he's out?
So I've got two observations. The first, purely speculative about Governor Walz, but my feeling is the reason he held on so long after these scandals started breaking was he had gotten a taste for the national political audience, and I think as a vice presidential candidate, thought that if he had been the head of that ticket, they might have won. And I think, this again, my speculation, was his hope was to win a third term in a blue state and be able to bounce off of that towards a Democratic run for the presidency. And so it took him a long time to realize that what you realized 2 weeks ago, that his career in politics was effectively finished. But the more interesting point about this whole story that I thought was that, CCO and KSTP have done stories on fraud that failed to capture the public imagination here in Minnesota. And I think that speaks to the fact that so few people on the right side of the political spectrum ever tune in to WCCO, CDS,
sure,
KSTP, or ABC any longer, that they never even saw those stories because they don't trust those as legitimate news outlets. And a 23-year-old college dropout is the trusted voice of American journalism.
Right.
It blows my mind. It's like in Stranger Things when you're living in the Upside Down. It's just bizarre to me that people don't tune in to reputable journalistic sources that have editorial control and power to make sure that the story is right. Instead, we just go with, and it sounds like much of what Mr. Shirley reported did get many things right.
He got many things, the gist of it, like the general gist, you're like, yep. But man, imagine if I did a story back when I was working at Channel 4 and the bar was, Jason got like the gist right. Like, oh my God. Like, no.
And the other, and you would have lost access to power there too.
Right.
And you reported something like that where the freedom that some of these YouTubers have is they don't have any access anyway. So they are out there, as Governor Cox of Utah says, they're conflict entrepreneurs. They have a financial incentive to gin up the story.
Yeah.
And because they're not going to have access to anything anyway, they have nothing to lose.
Nothing to lose.
And that's where, again, we're living in the upside down, my friend.
Mark, thank you. Very good call. Donna is in a car. Donna, thanks for listening to CCO. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, I'm afraid to say that, yes, I voted for him the first time around. But then when the Rocks and Cows comment came out, it immediately put an idiot light over his head. And so now Taxon Timmy hasn't won for me in a very long time, just because of the fact that his world ends at like Litchfield or Hutchinson. He doesn't even know we exist out here.
Do you think that is more of a wider problem with the DFL today, or is that specific to Tim Walz?
That's the problem with all politics. That's even my biggest gripe with any of the city's news programs. Do you know that the world ends at Litchfield, that we don't exist? I mean, I think they're afraid that they're going to drop off the earth.
Where are you at, Donna? What part of the state are you in?
I am central. I am a half an hour south of Wilmer.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm an hour from the South Dakota border. Nobody knows we exist out here.
Right.
We're looking for help with infrastructure and everything else, and everything is pumped to the middle of the state.
Yeah, it is interesting, right? Like Wilmer has 20,000 people or so who live there. Ojai County is not huge. And you do look at it becomes a numbers game instead of doing what's right for the people of Minnesota, for the where you're ending up. You're like, well, we're trying to get the money to where the people are. It's I feel for you. I would feel abandoned too.
We do. There's just nobody out there that will come and help.
Yeah.
We apply for grants. We try for all of this stuff to make our area better, and we're kind of erased.
It's interesting.
They don't know we're out here.
Yeah, and I don't think the Republicans are much better about it. Do you, Donna?
No, not in the least. I'm very much independent. I will vote for you if I like what you stand for, And if you're going to do something for me, so I could be voting Republican, I could be voting Democrat.
Right.
At this point, I would even give Jesse Ventura another shot because it can't freaking hurt.
Donna,
it's like, are you serious?
Yeah. Thank you, Donna. I appreciate it. It's a good point. I mean, I think there's a lot of that in greater Minnesota, but I think a lot of people feel left behind by politics. Let's break. Kevin, Jonathan, stay on the line. You're welcome to 651-461-9226. Drive Time back in a minute.
You're listening to Drive Time with DeRusha. Video streaming live on YouTube and always on your radio at News Talk 830 WCCO.
I want you to join me on an unbelievable vacation to Ireland. It's Jason. Let's go to Ireland with Colette. 10 days, 14 meals. This is an unbelievable experience. I have never been to Ireland. It is a bucket list trip for me. And the trip that Colette has set up is going to absolutely blow your mind. You are going to love it. From history-filled Dublin, we're going to go there. We're going to explore the rolling green hills and the dramatic coast. This is a journey through the Emerald Isle. So we'll be visiting a Blarney Castle. We'll have an experience in a brewery. We're going to do the Ring of Kerry. We're doing the Blarney Stone. All of these amazing experiences. And you don't have to do a dang thing. The people at Colette have planned the entire trip. So all you have to do is join me and my wife and some CCO listeners and have the absolute time of your life. Here's how you get involved, because this trip is going to sell out. So I want you to get the information quickly. Oh, when are we going? September 13th is when we do this trip. I want you to call Colette. 866-436-6734. Or if you go to WCCO.com and just search Ireland, it'll pop right up. WCCOradio.com, Ireland. Colette is 866-436-6734. So let's go. Let's go to Ireland. I can't wait for you to join me. Jason, as a Republican, this was a bad day. Now we will face a Democrat who can actually win. We'll talk about that with Blois Olson in about 10 minutes. Amy Klobuchar is being mentioned up and down. And so we'll see. We'll see. Dave Nimmer's article was the tipping point, says a texter. Dave Nimmer was a longtime WCCO TV reporter. He's been a journalism professor. He was an editor for the Minneapolis Star back in the day. Nimmer wrote a story or wrote a letter to the editor that basically was saying, I'm a Democrat, but Walz has to go. This was my viewpoint. I didn't think Tim Walz should run again. I think that the inability to quickly and aggressively take responsibility for a culture that allowed fraud to exist, there's no way he was ever going to get out of that. The state of Minnesota has been saying, oh, and by the state, I mean the Democrats who are in control of our elected offices, our state agencies. The Democrats have said, well, we got these guys. We got these guys. We referred them to prosecutors. We caught it. And yes, catching fraud and catching bad guys is good. But when you create the environment that allows fraud to go unchecked until you catch it, you got a problem. And there never was any accountability that, you know what, we sort of screwed this up. We should have been more aggressive on the front end. We should have been less trusting. We should have hired more auditors. We should have had less fear that we're going to be called out as being racist. So we screwed it up. Man, wouldn't that be a different story today if that ever happened at any point over the last 2 years? And it didn't. Let's go to Kevin in Anoka. He's on the CCO Talk and text line 651-461-9226. Hey, Kevin.
So this guy's an absolute abysmal failure by every metric. But you know what everybody forgets about the Shirley video? The older gentleman that he was walking around with is a former state Minnesota employee who was a fraud investigator and was sounding the alarm back in 2019 and was told to shut up about it. And when he didn't shut up, they fired him. So I want to know, maybe should we see Walz in jails for hampering and persecuting whistleblowers?
No. So should Walz go to jail? Is Walz going to get prosecuted? That whole line of conversation, to me, is part of the stupidity of our politics today, that not only can we're not satisfied with defeating our opponents, we need to jail them. We need to prosecute them. Like, I think, I just think it's crazy.
If you fire whistleblowers, go to jail.
Kevin, come on. Come on.
If this was a private corporation, the CEO would already be in arraignment court.
It's not a private corporation. And it's not just Tim Walz, it's everybody in government that ignored the whistleblowers. Now, I will say the next phase of reporting that I'm interested in, I'm not super interested in seeing 20 more stories about different things that are fraudulent. I'm happy to let the federal investigators do their work. I am very interested to learn who in the bureaucracy had the chance to maybe shut this down, and why. Who did the whistleblowers go to? Why were they blown off? And how do we set things up going forward so we prevent fraud before it happens? I would like to see that.
And when they see people in orange jumpsuits, they'll think twice about ignoring whistleblowers and firing them.
All right. Thanks, Kevin. I'm just not into it. Sorry. Like, all of you guys that want somebody arrested for everything, I think this is part of why regular people would never want to run for office, because you goofballs are going to be like, well, I got to arrest him. Why isn't he being arrested? I can't tell you how many people have been in my social media today saying, well, I think Tim Walz stepped down because he's about to get indicted. Tim Walz, at least with the information that we have in front of us right now, I say that because there's always the possibility for new information. But what we know right now is that Tim Walz was traveling the country trying to be the vice president, traveling the country trying to be the tough guy who hates Donald Trump, and surrounded by the same advisors that have been with him for 8 years. And so, did those advisors let him down? Did he have enough people around him to say, like, hey, this is an actual problem. It's not just Republicans trying to roast you. This is an actual problem. Fraud is an issue. I think those are the structural problems. Does that mean he should go to jail? No. Jonathan in Minneapolis. Hey, Jonathan.
Hey, Jason DeRusha. How are you? And Happy New Year, friend.
Happy New Year to you.
Okay, so I might surprise you here. I'm going to run for the governor of the state of Minnesota.
Wonderful. I've been waiting for the first person to step up in the wake of the announcement. I did not think it would be you, Jonathan.
I can tell you why. Number one, this city and the state has gone down the tube. And it's not because the Democrats, it's not because the Republicans, it's because the humanity of the state, of the people that are in it. Nobody talks to anybody anymore. Nobody does anything for the cities. Nobody does anything for each other but themselves. And everybody is just trying to survive the apocalypse. Now, with that being said, my philosophy is the way you treat people is the way you want to treat people back. Now, also, I can tell you, Jason, the amount of garbage that our lovely president is going to throw at Tim Walz, we all knew it was coming. We all knew because he was the vice presidential pick.
Right.
It's only a matter of time before they try to come after our state.
Yeah.
And by coming after us, go ahead.
I'm glad you raised that, Jonathan, because I was thinking about that today. If Tim Walz was not the pick for vice president, would Minnesota have been in the crosshairs of the federal government? Would the social media influencers have come here to do the video about fraud? Would today have happened if it wasn't for Tim Walz running for vice president? I don't know.
And that's the only reason. And that's the only reason why he brought ICE here. You know, that's the only reason why he brought ICE here.
Yeah.
And I can tell you also, the fact of the matter is that this country, in the world that we're about to be in, we need a strong leader. It's not Amy Klobuchar. I love her. I think she's doing a great job. The next generation of people in this country needs to step up, because if we don't, there will be nothing left of our government. And that is speaking from someone who is an independent now. And I can also tell you that if you want to run, you need to have a social media advisor. And I can tell you, If you don't, you will not win
Yeah.
because nobody listens to anybody. Nobody talks to each other anymore. And I can tell you, if I run, I will throw everybody under the bus, and that'll be it.
Jonathan for governor, everybody.